right, welcome. Go ahead. Do you want to?
Yeah, so welcome everyone. The title of our presentation is called Optimizing OpenSciEd. We hope that by the end of today you have a really good idea of how we've been able to implement the OpenSciEd curriculum and strategies for making it doable in your specific settings. So just a little bit about ourselves to begin. My name's Andrew Bausch. I've been teaching 7th grade science for 18 years in the Westfield Public School District.
Yeah, I'm Melissa Czerwinski. This is my 22nd year teaching 7th grade science. We've both been doing inquiry units, like the OpenSciEd units, for a really long time, since 2009. And our first OpenSciEd unit was 2018.
Mm-hmm. And so just before we jump in about kind of our strategies, we'd just kind of want to get a sense of how comfortable or familiar you are with OpenSciEd to begin with. So is there anyone that is brand new to OpenSciEd, like hasn't implemented anything or is just becoming like total newbies? Okay. Is anybody currently teaching or implementing OpenSciEd? Okay, great. And then any administrators in here? Okay, great. Hopefully we're going to be able to touch on things for all of you and kind of show you exactly how we've gotten to the point where we are now, which is about 6 years in. Okay.
So we're going to start with a crash course. Honestly, we could teach you about OpenSciEd for the entire time, so we're going to be a little quick with this part, but for those of you who are totally new to it, it just gives you a brief overview of the curricular resources. So the most important thing is really you can access everything online. So if you go to openscied.org, anything you need is there, so feel free to go back and look at all of the resources. There's K-12 units. We're specifically focusing in on the middle school units, but they're all there. And if you go to curriculum, instructional materials, that's where you really get like the meat of the units. Here are some of the 6th grade units. And each year there are 6 units. And they tie together across the year and then from year to year. And really, because we've been doing it for 6 years, we now see those connections really clearly. In the beginning, it takes a little while to kind of see them, but they do emerge over time. Good, you can go. We're 7th grade teachers, so these are the units that we're most familiar with. The bath bomb is what we're doing right now. And then we do a unit on engineering, and then some biology units, and we end with our climate change unit. And then these are our 8th grade units, also some really interesting ones with forces and sound and genetics and natural selection. And all of the units are NJSC aligned, so they've already done all that work for you. And it's outlined in the manuals also, like how they're aligned. This is probably the most important slide because regardless of which unit you're teaching, the instructional model is basically the same. So you start with a phenomenon that will engage the kids and will drive the whole unit. And then they come up with a driving question board where they come up with their own questions. The driving question board is one of my favorites because I was a little skeptical in the beginning. I was like, yeah, they're going to come up with the questions and then that's actually going to drive the unit. Like, okay. But it actually starts to really come together when they come up with their questions. So it's pretty amazing. And then they do some investigations and navigations and putting things together. And then by the end, they understand all of the content that was intended to be taught in the unit. All right, we're going to go back over to our main presentation. I can click if you want.
Okay. And so you can see that there's a lot of thought that's gone into developing the OpenSciEd curriculum. And so when we were first introduced to it, which was about 6 years ago, first thing you do is you kind of get access to the units that you're going to be teaching and these heavy-duty manuals. And the first thing that happens is when you take a look at one of these manuals, you realize it's super, super in-depth, very, very detailed, has everything that you could possibly want to include in your lessons. At the same time, it can seem very, very overwhelming. So just for our 7th grade school year, these are the units that we cover, right? There's 6 altogether. And if you were to read every single one of the pages in the manuals, it comes to over 2,000 pages, which, if you're a first time going through it, can be very, very overwhelming. So the big question for us was, is it even possible to implement all of this in one school year? And we finally got into the answer, yes, it is. but with some modifications. So one of the things that we look at these manuals as extremely useful tools, and our supervisor has been super nice by giving each of us a copy of every single manual so that we have access to everything, hard copy as well as the online versions. But we try and treat it as just that, a tool. We're going to talk about how you don't have to use every single thing that's included in the manual, where you can start to cut corners and find shortcuts, and how you just kind of treat this as your OpenSciED security blanket, where you have everything there.
Okay, so how to make the impossible possible. And it does feel impossible in the beginning. We definitely felt that. We remember looking at the resources, remember doing the math and like, this isn't even gonna fit in a school year. How is this even possible? Plus all of the unexpected things, we deal with as teachers. So the most important thing is take a breath and pace yourself. It is possible, but you have to do a little bit at a time. You cannot do all of it all at once. We actually had someone come in a little earlier because he couldn't make it to this. He's like, this is impossible. And so we're like, no, it's not. But we remember feeling that way. And so really just kind of keeping your eye on the prize. We spend a lot of time thinking about where are we going and how are we going to get there. So when we get all bogged down in the manual and we're like, oh my gosh, this is going to take forever. I don't even know what they're talking about. We say, okay, look back at the storyline. What do they need to know? And how are we going to get there? And that really kind of puts things in perspective and helps us reframe what we're doing. We're going to give you some ideas for some shortcuts if you need them. Be patient and think of it as a 5-year plan. So our supervisor, Tom, is here. Hey, Tom. So this is a note to administrators. I think you're just one in here. But his support was really crucial to this working. So someone who came in earlier, he said, like, we're expected to do all of the units, 100% fidelity. Like, this is impossible. We're like, yeah, that's impossible. It's impossible. It's not going to happen. And honestly, I think it results in quitting, right, or feeling really down about it. And so we started 1 unit at a time. Tom kept talking about his 5-year plan, which I may have rolled my eyes a couple times about that because I'm like, let's just do it. Like, why don't we just do it? But he's like, no, we're going to get this right in 5 years. And really, it took 5 years. He was right. You need to be patient. And also, he bought us everything we needed. So he bought us the manuals. He bought if we needed cups, if we needed a better balance. All of those things made it a lot easier. But really being patient and keeping your eye on the prize, that you want to get this right long term. And so that may mean that you're not going to get it perfect this year or today. But keeping that all in mind, I think really helped us with our anxiety and also just pacing ourselves so that ultimately the kids got the best result.
Yeah, basically we felt as though anytime we were able to make progress in implementing anything OpenSciED related, we felt good. We didn't feel like we were being judged by not completing a unit or not by getting through all 6 units by the end of the year. We felt like anytime we were able to become more comfortable with some of the strategies that OpenSciED implements, like the navigation routines and the phenomenon-based discussions, we kind of like celebrated that. And the other good thing is that we did it together. So we rolled it out with everyone in the department so that everyone was kind of having discussions about how it was going in real time.
Yeah, and we often still talk about what can be cut and what needs to be expanded. So sometimes it can feel like too much or it can feel like beating a dead horse. Sometimes the kids pick up on things before you thought they were going to, and now you're just like going over and over again and it feels like you need to wrap it up. So sometimes we just wrap it up. There are other lessons that we think are like so meaty and content heavy. And in the manual, it'll say one day, we're like, one day, there's no way that we could teach them that in one day. And they'll actually, so we're like, nope, we're taking 5 days on that one. And so we just adjust, right? And that time comes from somewhere else. And that's a constantly evolving process. And you could even just start with doing the first 2/3 of the unit, right? If you're really working on pacing and getting to all the units, and then just kind of wrap it up at the end, and then circle back to things the next year that you may have missed. And we always reevaluate for the next year. We're always thinking about, okay, what did we reevaluate for the whole year, and then also on a more like micro level.
Yeah, we'll show you how we've done that.
Okay. So, as a sample, I decided to take lesson 6.1, which I had never taught before. So I've done the 7th grade units, and I was like, what do I do when I like start an open SciEd unit that I've never taught before? So I went through, and like I said, I really think about where we're going, where are we not going yet or ever. That's a really important point. So it's important to read the whole storyline before you teach the unit. Because if you go lesson by lesson, you may give things away that are coming and you didn't realize you gave it away too early, and then you're like, ooh, I messed it up for myself later. And then we also pay attention to the assessment boundaries in the standards, right? And those are reiterated in the manuals where you're like, no, you're not teaching balancing equations. That's not part of the bath bomb unit. They're telling you to stop there. So we pay attention to those boundaries too. And then we think about how we're going to get there. So when I teach a new open SciEd lesson, I read the storyline for the whole unit and then for the particular lesson. I love the learning plan snapshot. That's at the beginning of each lesson, where it's kind of what I think of as a lesson plan. It's like, this is what you're doing. And then what I'll do is I'll go read more detailed parts of the things that I don't get. I don't read every single word of every single lesson. I don't have time for that. And it's just not sustainable. But I will sometimes look at it and say, I don't know what they're talking about there. I need to read that in more detail, or I need to go a little bit deeper. Do you want to switch over to our comment?
And so we've kind of described this as kind of treating everything like an accordion, where there's certain things that we're going to kind of condense based on our time constraints, and there's other things we're going to expand based on how important it is for the rest of the unit. And really, what we always keep coming back to, and Melissa brought it up, is the storyline. So within that teacher manual, right in the front, it's just a 6-page storyline that gives you an overview for the entire unit. So this is what we really we have access to these big manuals, but really what we do is we keep coming back to the storyline, and it's much easier, right? It's much easier to manage. It's much easier to have kind of at the ready, right, on the desk, all that kind of thing.
And that's also the first thing we share when people are freaking out, whether it's like a special ed teacher or a parent, or like someone's like, I don't know how to help my kids with this. I don't know what's going on either. And you're figuring it out at the same time. We're like, well, here's the storyline, right? Here are the main points. Here's where we're going, so that at the very least you have an idea of what the whole picture is.
Yeah, and it's a continuous process. So even though we've been working on it for 6 years, we're still accordioning lessons now based on what our 6th graders are learning and what they're coming into the classroom with. So now we're realizing that our 6th grade teachers have been, working through their units for a while now, and students understand material much better than they did a couple years ago. So we can actually shorten certain lessons and say we don't need to spend that much time reviewing certain things like flow of energy and matter conservation, and we can spend a little bit more time on experiments that we didn't have time to do in the beginning, and things like that. So, we're constantly reevaluating where we're at, and we're willing, and luckily we have the support, we're able to continuously kind of condense certain things and expand certain things. And we're going to show you kind of what that's looked like over a 6-year
So we decided to map it out. We kind of had this visual in our head. So I'm like, let's actually go back in our plans and like look at it, right? So our first year doing all the units, sort of, was 2020, 2021, which, was the pandemic. Also, it was our first year. So there was a lot of winging it happening that year. And you could see, like, okay, we spent a long time on bath bombs. We spent that McKenna unit was like the unit that never ended.
Yeah.
And then we really didn't get to droughts and floods. It was like, hey, climate change, it's getting hotter. Have a nice summer.
Yeah.
That was the end of the year. We really didn't even do the unit that year, right? So then we said to ourselves, okay, that's really important to us, getting to that last unit. We need to find the time during the year, right? And so even starting in bath bombs, we're like, hey, can we squish that into one lesson, or like, can we get rid of that, because we're giving ourselves time for droughts and floods at the end. And so you could see we did better. And then we did a whole lot better. That's when we were like, McKenna is like really taking way too long. So we decided to cut that. And remember, like Andrew said, our kids are getting better each year. So like, it's a little bit of a moving target as all the teachers are doing open SciEd, because now like you're doing a notice wonder chart, they know what a notice wonder chart is. Whereas the first year we were teaching all of those skills explicitly. So it took a lot more time. And then last year, we were actually like, whoa, we sort of overdid it a little bit. Now we gave so much time to droughts and floods. Like, we probably need to pare that back a little bit. And this year we're really working on going back and looking at all the things we ditched because we couldn't handle them and pulling them back in.
Right.
So like, we're going to do a better job with related phenomena. We've kind of like given that the short end of the stick because we couldn't handle it. We're,
hands-on experiments, right? There's certain where we were like, we're Contra 10, we can't set this up. We're gonna use the videos instead. Now we're like, hey, we have a good handle on everything. We're gonna start to try and bring that back in, and set it up for the kids to actually do it in groups, in person, in the classroom. So yeah, it's been a process for the entire time we've been implementing units, and it will continue to be a process as our students get better and better with the material.
So when we were brainstorming, we were thinking like, how do you like get going, right? And my mentor has always said teaching is a marathon, not a sprint, right? That if you try to sprint, you're never going to make it. You're never going to make it through the year. You're never going to make it through the career. You have to see it as a marathon. And so I was like, it's like one of those couch to 5K programs. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, but where you've never run before. Now it's like, you're going to run a 5K. You can't just go run a 5K. I mean, you can, but it's really going to hurt and it's probably not going to end well. And it's the same idea, right? So we decided to go with floundering to phenomena. It's our witty little name, where it's the same idea, but we broke it down. Do you want to?
Yeah. So, just like if you're, trying to get ready for a race or whatever, the first step would just be really small steps, right? Just trying to take some of the practices that they have in the OpenSide curriculum and just working it into your normal lessons. Notice and wonders, talking about related phenomena, and then getting more comfortable actually taking some of the units, right, or some of the lessons, and just starting your unit off like that. So like in 7th grade, the first 2 units of the year is chemistry. You might have really great chemistry units that you're currently doing. Maybe you can use the bath bomb phenomenon as a way to introduce the rest of your chemistry unit. And then number 3, move on to just 1 or 2 units a year. So you can see like the progression that's happening, where it's not just, we want you to teach all 6 units right from the get-go. You have to do everything in the manual, everything that's listed in the slides. That's just kind of, it just seems daunting, and you're just setting yourself up for failure. So,
and I think this really varies by teacher, right? Like, so I'm always like one to kind of put my foot on the gas, and I'm like, I want to teach all the units, right? Maybe that's not realistic, but I probably would like steps 1, 2, and 3, where if you have a teacher who's really struggling and like, this is really hard and it's overwhelming, maybe you stay in that top level for a little bit longer. It's really, you could kind of customize it to where you're at and what you feel comfortable with. Also, an important part of this process that we talked about in the beginning is saying goodbye to the good lessons and the good units. We had a very hard time with that. We talked about setting up a unit graveyard at one point. But the reality is, when we started, we had some units that we worked on for a really long time that were really good.
Yeah.
And we had lessons that were really good. And so part of adopting this was saying goodbye. Yeah, that unit was really good. The kids learned a lot. Yeah, but this stuff is really good too. And so we said goodbye to it. And I think one of the things that I think is the most motivating about the open-sided units is the way that they click together to each other across the year and then from year to year. And like, it takes a long time to see it. But I saw that even when I taught an 8th grade class, the kids would be like, oh yeah, like in 7th grade, or oh, like in 6th grade. But that's not gonna happen on the first go round because it takes a long time for those kids to even have seen all of those units.
Yeah, there really is a very nice progression that has been very, very well thought out. And so, we understand getting to that point is the tricky part, but if you're able to implement it in the way that it's designed to be implemented, it's very, very successful.
Do you want to break for questions? I feel like we're doing okay with our pace.
We're okay with, we can do that.
Does anyone have any questions or things you want to bring up? We have like a little pocket of time before we move forward. Yeah.
Could you explain what bath bomb is?
What a bath bomb is, or what the
Like whatever the
Okay.
storyline.
Yeah, sure.
So really we keep calling it bath bomb unit, right? But the real essential question is, how can we make something new that was not there before? And so it's essentially an introduction to chemistry. And what the students do is they observe a bath bomb being put into water and how bubbles can be formed and color changes, and they go through the process of figuring out how does that phenomenon happen at the molecular level. So we refer to it as the bath bomb unit, really because that's the anchoring phenomenon that we keep coming back to. But it's really just used as a way to touch on all of these different basic chemistry concepts.
So is that the storyline?
That is a part of the storyline. So the storyline is a progression of lessons after they observe what happens with the bath bomb. Then it's about how do we go through the process of taking our observations and then creating experiments and actually like investigating what happens when bubbles are formed and things like that.
Yeah, go ahead.
I just have a question because our teachers, high school teachers, they really only got to 2 units last year. It was their first year. So the thing is, what happens when they're not completing the units, they're not getting, through all the content, but then they have NJSLA in 11th grade? Like how is there, we have IXL, I tried, to kind of supplement what they might be missing. Generation Genius is another one, but yeah, what do you?
Did you want to fail that one time, or you want to fail? No. Okay. I mean, I think that one thing we always try to make sure is that they're getting all the key content anyway, right? So like the how might change and the level of detail might change, but they have gotten all the key points that we need to teach them in the year, right? And so I think we're talking more about the process and the how and the why. And you can even like sometimes just give them notes about something if that's necessary for that point. Yeah, go ahead, Tom.
Your question centered around high school not having taken all of the engineers and got it this
It was high school, we made some NJSLA, but yeah.
Right. So that's a larger scale problem because independent of the resource that you use, there's no guarantee students will go through the full coursework by 11th grade or at all. And the one thing that to notice if anybody in your district or any of these other districts ask about how this relates to things from an administrative point of view is we look at test scores and whatnot because we're supposed to use that as an indicator of student success. If you look at test scores across the state in the middle school level 6 through 8, you'll see this depression from elementary school to high school. It's like a valley, and it would be very easy to say that that's a result of like districts like us that use Open SciEd. It must not be as valuable of a resource because here's a high performing school district that has this dip in grades 6 through 8. But that's not a solid argument, especially because Open SciEd is the model curriculum from the New Jersey Department of Ed. So if you're doing the curriculum that they expect you to do and taking the tests that they give you, then you would expect the results to be good. The reason is because the test was developed before anybody knew Open SciEd was. So there are larger issues about like what does the test ultimately mean? But I think Melissa is correct that the way that they implement the resource and the quality of the resource is just generally going to prepare the students very well. And the same thing I think you're going to see in the high school program. That's a somewhat different animal because the problem they're going to have in high school is they're moving to a more progressive overall science education model where that's breaking the mold from the okay guys, we're going to go through chapters 1 through 10 in the chemistry book. So we do not have Open SciEd in our high school program because we're figuring out how we can even broach that with the population students that we have. So that was a long-winded answer, but hopefully it was helpful to
No, that's good. Yeah.
Yeah, let's do one more now, and then we'll do more questions later. Can you just hold it for later? I'm just going to call on her and then just jot it down. Yep, I promise. We'll do questions at the end.
What do assessments look like, or is that something you're going to do?
Great question. We're not going to talk about it in too much detail, but
You can give
there
it.
are assessments that are already fleshed out and available. A lot of times we kind of create our own. Like we take information that is involved in the assessment, but we also even like all last year we actually created assessment banks for our entire department where we wanted to not only like in the Open SciEd assessments, it's a lot of like application-based questions and even some modeling. And when we were talking, we were saying that in general, more practically, we would like some more traditional, like part. So we create tests that are a balance. Like there's some direct, like fill in the blank or multiple choice, but then there's also some modeling and some, usually an application question, something like that.
Yeah, and OpenSciEd has gotten a lot better about that over time. So they've added like checkpoints in, and they've added more assessment opportunities. And we, like I said,
based on
like
feedback
he
from
said, we do a combo where we take some ideas and we take what we did in the OpenSciEd units, but then we sometimes make it our own. Yeah.
I'm loving this, but it's also like,
How do I grade it?
How do you grade it?
Yeah.
Also, like, there's still some concepts that are better assessed. Like, can you read the periodic table and like pick out these pieces?
Right. Can you identify an element, right, and tell me what it is? Blah blah blah. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So we found the same thing. I think that we realized that it's wonderful, but in practicality in the everyday classroom, when you need grades or you need other things, right? Tweaking it and bringing in some more traditional type things has worked well for us.
Challenging to modify as well. All the open-ended and it's very hard to modify, especially.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So we add lines or sometimes we change the wording or turn it into a multiple choice. Yeah. Whatever. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. So this is a sample. As I mentioned, I pulled lesson 6.1 just to do as a sample because I wanted to pick something I was unfamiliar with. So this is the learning snapshot that they give you during the light unit. And I read through it. I'm like, okay, that's already included in number 1. Like I can skip this. I never skip the initial class model. Sometimes I skip the related phenomenon. That's something we're working on. Sometimes I'll find something in the learning plan snapshot that I'm like, I have no idea what they're talking about. And that's when I go into the text, the like really detailed text, and I read more carefully. Like I said, I don't read that detailed text for everything, but when I'm like, I don't know what they mean about mapping the box model to the video, I go through that and check it out. For the driving question board, everyone does it a little bit differently. I like to do a Google form in the beginning of the unit where they submit that, and then I it goes into a Google sheet, and then I make like a live Google Doc. So we constantly are adding questions, answering questions. The stickies kept falling down, and then also I just forgot about it. Whereas this way, if a kid says a question in the middle of like a random lesson, I'm like, oh, get that on the board, and they can pull up their computer and get it right into the board. They can even do it at home if they wanted to. It's a nice like extra time thing for the kids who are always flying ahead. I'm like, hey, circle back, see if we answered anything, see if you have more questions. So that's just how I like to do it. Everybody does it a little bit differently.
Some teachers use Padlet. Like it's kind of whatever for you works specifically to your needs and what you're comfortable. What technology you're comfortable with too.
Yeah, so that's like just a sample of like the learning plan snapshot and what we do with it. And then I make a to-do list, right? So this is like what I'll have out to make sure I get through the lesson. And I'm like, okay, if things go south, what do they need to know? They need to know some materials are reflective and see-through at the same time, and light may be related to whether a material is reflective or see-through. And so by the end of the day, I'm like, okay, they need to know this. So even if things didn't go exactly the way I wanted them to, and I took too much time, as long as they know this, we can move on to the next lesson.
Yeah, and that really just comes back to going back to the storyline, kind of revisiting that all the time. And then, customizing materials. So like we talked about, really, having this work in your classrooms, in your ICS classrooms, you will need worksheets that have a little bit more structure or detail. So actually taking what they have in the manual and creating, a fill-in-the-blank type of worksheet where you're doing a little bit more direct instruction. That has worked for us, and there's definitely nothing wrong with that. Just taking, especially with AI now, right? Taking certain things from the teacher edition, which you can access online, throwing it into, a Gemini or something like that, and actually creating, a worksheet using those questions. We've done that too. Making actually like a physical notice and wonder chart instead of having them create one in their notebook. So basically just, things that are going to help the day-to-day, the everyday type of structure and kind of, lesson that you need, we've done that, and we found that it's definitely helpful, even with experiments. So there are a lot of really great experiments that are talked about in Open SciEd. They have videos, right, that are available online for most of them. We've had to practice a lot of them, and we've made our own videos for some of the experiments, and we've realized that sometimes experiments are better off as demonstrations instead of setting up 100 cups for students to test every single ingredient that goes into bath bombs, right? There might be a day where you say, I need to do this as a demonstration, or I need to actually pull up a video instead, and that's happened. We've been lucky where we've gotten to the point where we've started to have a little bit more time where we can do some of the more hands-on experiments. But really, we think that you should feel comfortable using what's in your toolbox, right? So if you have a certain teaching strategy that works really well for you, tailoring the materials so that it works with your classroom, with your physical classroom, with your setup. If you have an in-class support teacher, that's important.
Yeah, and I said prior that we said goodbye to our old units, which we did, but we didn't say goodbye to our toolbox, right? We have a lot of tools that we've developed as teachers over 20-ish years, right? Those tools are not bad anymore. We still pull them out when we need them. We actually brought some of our customized things, right? With the some common gases, one of the things you do is identify the bath bomb gas, and we were like, Tom, we need a poster for some common gases. We need a big one we can mark up as a whole class. So we got a poster, and it's laminated, and so we mark that up.
And that's not something that's in the storyline or the teacher's manual. It's just something that we realized in the classroom having discussions, we needed to do that, right?
And this is something else that came about organically. I was explaining to them the process of elimination and using properties, and we're going to eliminate certain gases. And I'm like, it's like Guess Who, right? You know how to play Guess Who? And one of the kids goes, Guess Who? I'm like, oh my God, Guess Who? Why didn't I think of that? And so we made a Guess Who, and we literally knocked them down, right? Yeah. That's not in the manual. It just happened, and it was brilliant, and so we use it, right? And so those are the kind of things where you have ideas like that. You don't have to throw them all away. And they may just pop up with your kid. And just one more note about this one. I don't ever wing it with the experiments. You have to practice the experiments. And if you don't have time to practice the experiments, just use the videos. But they can be a lot. Yeah. And they sometimes can use some customizing. So I would never just get in all the supplies and then read it as the kids are coming in. Yeah, lots of practice for the. Yeah.
Yeah. That we found that. Yeah.
Things ahead of time and get it ready for them.
Right, and that's where there were times where we're like, we just can't pull this off this week, so we're gonna use the video, and we're gonna try to do it for next year, right? When we have a couple extra minutes, we'll try to figure that out, and so we've gradually ramped that up.
And understanding what they're supposed to get from the experiment, that's the key, right? Because then, however you want, if you need to do a demonstration set, however you get to the back end of it, then you can continue with the progression of lessons and stuff like that.
It's a lot of they have to create the tool that they'll be using.
Right.
It takes more time to set that up
right.
than actually perform the experiment.
Right.
Yeah. So we just set everything up ahead of
time.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah.
Save it year to year.
Right.
Yes. Right.
That's one of those what's the goal?
Saving on materials.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a perfect example.
Here are some things that we're circling back to. Vocabulary has never really been my strong suit. Something I I'm like, yeah. And so that's something I'm trying to focus on more. I have a really great in-class support teacher, and she's really great at making things very beautiful and printing them out. So she's working on a word wall. As I mentioned, related phenomena is something I also kind of ditch sometimes, so I'm trying to bring it back. And this year, I decided to start sorting them. One thing, another teacher in our district gave me a hint on the related phenomena that made me circle back to it. She was like, oh, I don't put everything up there for the whole unit. She has all the kids brainstorm, and then at the end of that day, she sort of reconfigures the Post-its. So it's a very full board, but she ditched a couple of them that would get everybody off track. And the kids don't notice. And it made for much richer conversations. And so this year I decided, I'm like, ooh, let's, in the middle of the unit, sort of reevaluate what we think. And they took some of the kids the kids took some of the related phenomena they thought in the beginning, and they're like, no, boiling water is not a related phenomena actually, even though it has bubbles. And so it led to some neat conversations.
Yeah.
Can I say something real quick?
Yeah.
Sure.
If you're not part of the Facebook groups, if you're on Facebook, Facebook has like it's broken down by unit.
Yeah.
So if you're
Mhm.
6th grade,
Mhm.
7th grade, 8th grade, and it's been an invaluable resource because I went on there, I think in June, not June, in September, and there was a word wall for, I teach 6th grade, so 6.1, and it was in Spanish, it was in English, and it was pre-made. So it was like, and
Perfect,
a lot
yeah.
of people are so nice in sharing their
Yeah.
resources that I just added that right to my guide. And now I added that word wall in English, in Spanish, right to my Google Classroom, and I have that resource. So those Facebook groups have been super helpful in modifying assessments, modifying the worksheets.
Yeah.
And the alternate class and stuff.
Yeah, it becomes manageable if we all help each other, right?
Yeah, so I'm going to show you, that's a perfect example. There's an electrolysis lab that happens in the bath bomb unit that's pretty, we have the materials for it with sodium hydroxide and test tubes and everything, and they want us to set up with the kids, right? And I set it up once by myself, and I was like, no.
Nope,
I
we're
was
not
like,
doing that.
I can't do it myself, right?
Nope,
but I
not doing it.
found in one of those groups was basically a version of doing the lab, but with pencils. That was much easier setup, right? And so I was talking about Melissa. I said, this is something that we could definitely do as a demo, or if we feel comfortable, start to expand it out. It's different than how it's written here, but it gets at the same idea, right? That you split water into hydrogen and oxygen, and the setup is much, much easier. So I think what we're starting to realize is that implementing the open-sided units has great value, but everybody is struggling with doing it in its entirety, so we're just all trying to figure out ways to make it manageable and help each other out, and also not beat each other up for not doing no one does every single thing in there. It's not possible. It's just not possible.
All right, do you want to get into our try it?
I have a
Yeah.
question about
Yeah.
word wall and all that. So how do you handle
I'm going to pass out while you.
period?
I can do it too.
You're putting stuff up, you take it down, period, or if you're leaving it up.
Oh, that's a great question.
just
You
pass
mean
these
because you don't
down
want to
for me?
ruin it for the next class, right?
And how do you remember, this period came up with these ideas, but this period didn't?
Right. I would probably.
How do you go
I think we would talk about adding it to the word wall, not doing it exactly
one
in
down.
that time, in that
Okay.
that exact period, but saying
Here, you
by
can take
tomorrow this word will be up on the word wall.
So you don't actually
No, there you go.
Not like in that direct moment, because they leave, then the next period comes in, and you don't want it to be ruined. No, so I would wait until and say,
I think I've never passed
this
out
is great.
papers before.
We've identified, we're comfortable with this
Very
word. We're going to add it to the wall. Tomorrow,
They're
when you come
very
in,
stuck together.
it'll be up there.
So there might be words there that the other classes hadn't come up with.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, just pass it down.
Yeah, it should be almost like, and that's the tricky part is, right, making sure that all the classes are kind of in alignment, right? We're lucky in that sense where, we teach 5 sections right now of the same class, so we're able to do that. But yeah, those are little things that, depending on your situation, you might have to, maybe your word wall is a digital word wall, right? Where it's only accessible to your one class and it's not accessible to the other classes.
All right, do you want to intro
Yeah.
a little task here? Okay.
So what Melissa is handing out right now is an opportunity for you to take one of the lessons that's in the first 7th grade unit and just think about how it would look in a classroom. So, what you've received is you've received the first 8 pages of a full 29 pages of the lesson. Again, these are very, very detailed. There's lots of things in there. And we just want you, maybe together, you can do it in small groups, kind of look at it, figure out where are the students going, right? How are they going to get there? And then how would you do everything that they're talking about in the lesson? Are there things that you would scrap? Are there things that you would modify? And then what we'll do is we'll talk to you about how we went through the same process and changes that we made.
Okay, so maybe 4 or 5 minutes.
Yeah, take a couple minutes. We're going to come around too and just answer any more questions or kind of
Hi, welcome.
nudge you in the right direction if you need it. But
Did you want the papers? Okay.
Thank you
So you're just like kind of practicing reading it.
I'm teaching this actually.
Oh, perfect. There you go.
That mom's fifth grade, or-
Yep.
Yeah, okay, great,
Yep.
thank you.
Yep.
Oh yeah, good on
All
time.
right, 44. Well,
Okay.
are we okay with our pacing time?
Yes, we're okay. We're good.
Yeah.
How long are your classes?
Like this,
40 minutes.
So you have 40 minutes for a full year.
Yeah.
How do you like that time? 40 minutes is not like a lot.
No, it's not a lot. Yeah. I mean, I'm so used to it, you know. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
have a question?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Right. That would be nice for like a 2-day lesson that you could do it all at once.
Okay.
You know, I feel like we end up like chopping things up.
Gotcha.
You know, we're like, we'll talk
Okay,
about that
okay.
more tomorrow.
Okay.
Right now, it's for
Just open side.
subjects. So, but what about the gaps? Space, life, chemistry.
Got it. Yeah, yeah.
Because this is chemistry. This is like, and I do something.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's more
Right,
of a
right, right.
spiral where you basically
Yeah. So I mean,
each grade level isn't
yeah, so
content
sometimes we
specific.
provide
It's
some
more
notes,
like
so we
seventh
have
grade,
our
for
own like
example,
chemistry
we start
notes,
with
right,
2
where we like
units of basic
provide a little bit.
chemistry,
We don't go
and
too
then we
far
move
because we're not
into
supposed to go too
some
far,
biology.
right? Like,
It's like
but we do.
biochemistry,
We're
and
like,
then
this
from
is an
there we move
atom, like
into
you know, just like some
basically,
basic terminology. And so sometimes we'll
plants
make
and
our own
some
notes,
matter
like or that we
cycling
took
and-
stuff
and
we used
then,
in the past, and we'll just like throw that in there,
science.
you
So,
know,
yeah, it's definitely more
not
of a
for that
spiral.
long. Like it's usually like, you know, a half a period, but yeah, we like to take stock of where we are sometimes and give them
Yes.
official notes.
Then,
It
like,
also helps the parents
yeah, I'd
at
say
home
it's
too.
more building on like core
you know,
information,
so-
like flow of energy or flow of matter.
They just use like a regular
as opposed
notebook.
to,
We don't do it like
like,
the
the
way that Open
definition of an
Science asks to do the
ecosystem or
notebook,
something like that.
where like, you know, they're supposed to like paste up. We don't.
don't paste it.
Yeah. So we have binders and a notebook where like, yeah, no, so we
Absolutely,
didn't.
yeah. So I can share
Yeah,
it with you. If,
yeah, right, exactly.
if
Yeah,
it's
you
in
can
our
cut and
folder.
glue for
But if you
20
go-
minutes.
have you
Yeah.
been onto the
So that's an
OpenSci
example
website?
of where we were like, yep, no, we're
Okay,
just not
so-
doing that. Or
Oh, this is the first thing.
we'll
So
take
what's
their
really great
documents
about
and then we like
OpenSci
doctor
is
them up a
they
little
have
bit or
a free
reword
website
or
where you can
get
access
rid of a couple
all,
things.
It has basically everything you can think of,
Both.
including
So they have
the breakdown
both. Like
of
sometimes, at least in my class, sometimes I'll be like,
units
okay, we're
within each
taking
grade,
notes today.
and also
you know, like open your notebook, and then
what
if it's like I'll give them a
information is
packet, and then
passed
they
on
put that
from
in their
one grade level to the next.
Okay.
Yeah, but that's
Content-wise,
just like a
also
personal
practice-wise,
preference thing, yeah.
skills-wise. So I would
Yeah.
definitely look at that. If you
No,
want
no,
to hang
yeah.
around, I can put it up on the.
Did you guys have anything else? Or?
Projector in a little bit,
No.
but yeah, it's definitely more. There's content, but it's more focused
Okay.
on like,
Yeah.
Building off
yeah,
the year player. Okay.
yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And it did take us a while. So when we first implemented it, we were kind of nervous because we were like, wait, because we were like that. We were like,
Yeah, that's a
more
lot.
content
Yeah.
specific. We were like, wait,
Yeah.
if we start to implement this, aren't
Yeah.
there going to be kids
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
don't know
Yeah.
things? Like they're going to jump into 8th grade and they're never going to have done anything with, you know,
Right. Yeah. And that's
chemistry,
where we really
right?
are like,
And,
okay,
yeah.
where are we going?
And then when they go to the high
Like,
school,
where do we
it's gonna
need to be
gaps.
by the
And
end of today?
we did
okay,
have to,
let's
like,
just get there. How are we gonna
play
get there?
with it
You
and
know,
tweak it. Once
because you
we
have to kind of
fully
have to be.
implementing it though, it's worked very well. Where the kids have gotten all the same amount of content and then more skills than
So
they
that's
had
what you're
before.
saying about having some of our
Yeah.
own previous lessons while still
Yeah.
Yeah.
like some of the units over the long
Yeah.
time.
That's what we did when we
Okay.
first started. So
Right,
we did our
exactly.
first open side unit
Yeah.
in 2018.
Okay.
Right.
And it was what we call the McKenna unit. It's
Right.
basically
Yeah.
biology.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
No,
we
totally
like
agree. Yeah.
basically only did the
It's fun,
first chunk of it, and then we continued with like our old
Yeah.
biology unit. We like, yeah, if you looked at it, it would have been like a hybrid type setup.
Okay.
But definitely the website has everything you're looking for. I'll give you the info.
Okay, so we're gonna move forward. I know there's a lot to talk about. Maybe like a little
Good.
bell or something. All right, so we're gonna move forward, everybody. I know we're a little tight on time, and we want to leave some time for questions at the end. So just hang with us, and then we will. We're happy to chat at the end also. So we're gonna show some of the edits that we've made to this specific plan over time. And so you may have discussed some things you want to do. Here are some key points from the teacher's edition. You just read that, so I'm not going to go over that. Do you want to? You click for
Yeah, so the key things in this lesson, right? You're trying to identify essentially what the bath bomb gas is. And so they start by having us do a demonstration about flammability. That's one of the properties that the students look at using that some common gases data table. And the way they have it laid out is and there's videos of these online too. Taking helium, a pre-filled balloon, opening up with a straw, taking the helium out, putting it into a beaker, putting a stopper on it, right? Then they have a different demonstration for how to collect the bath bomb gas. So they have these basically little cubes of the bath bomb. You put 5 of them in a beaker. You mix it with water. You trap the bath bomb gas, and then you do a demonstration with a lit match. And so what we did was we looked at it, and we just tweaked it for our classroom and how made it a little bit more user-friendly for us.
So that took forever. We're like, no, we're not doing all that. We can do the density and the flammability at the same time. And the kids actually were super helpful too. They're like, you don't need a whole bath bomb. You just need the baking soda and the citric acid. And you're like, you're right. It makes less of a mess. We're just going to do that. And the one kid's like, can't you just catch it in a balloon? Yeah, I can actually catch it in a balloon. Great point. I didn't think of that. And so over years of like kid suggestions and us doing it in a way that we didn't love, we kind of got that down. And then we don't do the written argument here. We do written arguments at different points, but we just cross off our eliminated ones or use our gas here. And this is one example where we cut a day.
Right, yeah, we condensed it. We accordioned it to make it shorter.
Okay, I'm just gonna show a couple. So these are a couple of videos from my classroom of how I do this with a demo with the students. I'm just gonna do the bath bomb ones.
So that the third
Do you want
one?
me to? You got it or I got it?
You can just click it.
Okay. Okay, so the baking soda and citric acid are in there.
Was this last year?
Yeah.
This was last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, capturing bath bomb gas in there. All right, ready when you are. Let's just stop, Rob. Stop right. Good, awesome. All right, you ready for the second part? Yeah. All right, let's keep going.
So like Melissa talked about, what's great about that the students came up with that plan. Like that's how we should collect the gas and that's how it'll work. So,
Go.
They feel invested in it too.
Stop, Ron. Lift. It went out.
Now that looks like very efficient, but it was not always that efficient.
Yeah, no.
Like there were days where that took a whole day, and we were like, "What are we doing?" Like,
Right.
So it takes time.
And because we were doing the same lesson at the same time, right, in separate rooms, we would come back for our prep period, and in real time, we would talk about, hey, I tried to do it this way in my class, or this totally bombed in my class. And there's this constant back and forth conversation about how can we tweak these things to make it doable in our classroom. And that's where the reevaluating for next year comes in. So like I said, we're lucky where, every day in real time, we're able to kind of meet on our prep period and talk about how things went, and then we're cognizant enough to understand that, okay, we should be recording this before we forget about it, and everything else during the school day kind of takes up our mind space, and start to prepare ourselves for next year. So we have like a running Google Doc where we actually write notes to ourselves, right? And Melissa's great at kind of always thinking of a great idea and saying, oh, I have a great idea, and then she'll actually look and realize that she came up with the same idea a year ago, right, in the
Anyone
document.
else do that? I forget my ideas, and then I also forget how things went badly and how I fixed them. The slate gets wiped every time. So we try to write things down. Sometimes we even take pictures of like how we set it up, so that we remember for the next year.
And we're just constantly trying to make things more efficient, cut time, especially if like in this bath bomb unit, after 5 weeks, if you're still talking about bath bombs, what happens is you have to start to change it up a little bit so that the kids, they don't become bath bomb fatigued, right? Or model fatigued, right? These are things that we're cognizant of. We want to make sure that, we're mindful of the students and we're just being efficient with their time and energy.
Yeah, so I think overall, before we go into questions, just really it is hard, and that's okay. and just pace yourself and really keep your eye on the prize. Like, where are you trying to go? How are you going to get there? Set manageable expectations. Hopefully you're supported by other people who are in the same boat, right? Trying the same things. Your administrators are supportive and patient. And so that over time, you'll really kind of see how it all clicks.
Yeah.
I'm so impressed with our timing.
What are some other models that, when you get fatigued, what are some other models that you guys segue to?
You mean like
When you get sick of talking about bath bombs, is there some other model that you can kind of bring in and correlate to? Or?
Well, there's definitely related phenomena that we discuss all the time, right? Like other types of, at a certain point in the unit, they understand that it's a chemical reaction that's happening. So a lot of times what we'll do is, instead of using the phrase bath bomb, we'll start talking about just chemical reactions or like examples of atoms rearranging and other things like that.
And those things are built into the unit. So we don't bring in anything really outside of the unit, right? Like they'll have assessment opportunities and related phenomena that kind of vary it up. Or, we sometimes see fatigue at the end of the unit. And so we'll just kind of like, okay, they got everything they needed to get out of it. We're like ready to move forward.
Yeah.
Go ahead, yeah.
So from an administrative mindset, we're constantly also thinking about costs and materials and things of that
Sure.
nature. So how much of the materials in this particular unit are supplied with the open site? How much do you have to we have to create a budget?
That's a great question.
Honestly, I would say that the supplies are generally like not that expensive, right?
No.
We got like the first kits. Tom, you could probably answer this better than I can, but we got the first kits and then we've kind of replenished with better things as needed.
So as far as the materials go, you'd be better off in the long run getting into it and then self-sourcing. If you're looking to start, probably one of the better sets, you'll go find Ron Antonori from Activate Learning, I think it's Learning. They probably have some of the better quality kits. We were sort of in the beginning to where at the Open Science, they went through a few different partners to supply the kits, and we found that it was better for us to piecemeal the equipment together to get better quality stuff. Ron's stuff is better, so he might be a good overall solution. And then the consumables year to year are not significant, and they're also the kind of thing where the consumables are, you basically buy a case of something like cups or saltine crackers, and you're good for like 5 years.
Yeah.
The most expensive stuff is probably like the MRE here.
Copper sulfate.
And the bath bombs, but for the other areas, it's not a whole lot.
And with the bath bombs, we use a store-bought one in the beginning to like show them like a big bath bomb. And then after that, we make our own.
We make our own.
We make, yeah, whatever. But if cost is a concern and someone says we can't buy, we,
Time is a concern for us.
Yeah, so-
We do the whole thing in a 90-day
yeah.
semester.
Some of the kids though want to stay after school to make the bath bombs. FYI.
Yeah.
We don't
Yeah,
have school buses.
but that's where like, that's where
yeah.
you do what works for you,
You
right?
do what
Like,
works for you. Exactly.
That works for you.
And the money's
that's
worth
okay.
it, right? It's
Yeah.
like, yeah.
I have a slightly different question. So
Sure.
I know I walked in late, so maybe you already said this. What grade are you guys?
Seventh grade, yeah.
We do 7.
And is your district doing Open Science with your students for years before that? Because like I'm teaching juniors
Right.
who've never had Open Science ever.
Right.
Yeah.
And then I try to do something like this, and then they're like, first thing.
Yeah. So that's like a different ballgame, right? Like, and we had talked about that earlier on, right? The first couple years we did it, all of us were teaching all of the practices, right? Because like they didn't come to us with the prior knowledge. But now our 6th graders, now they've done 6 Open Science units, so it's a different ballgame, right? It's easier. And so that's something that like in the beginning, it does require a lot of time and it is difficult, but if everybody sticks with it, it resolves itself, right? And then actually we sometimes end up with new problems where we're like, oh, they already know stuff or they already
Right.
figured things out. And like we had accounted for more time for that, but like now so like what can we plug in or where, we can always kind of have an idea of where we could use more time or what we want to plug in. So
Yeah.
the nice thing is like it is overwhelming, but you're never gonna like have nothing to do. right? Like you can always go back to the manual and pull more if you end up with extra time,
Right.
which we did eventually end up with, like
Yeah.
extra time at certain places, you know.
Mhm.
Anybody else?
Is
Yeah.
this different from the open side? This is just this.
This
open
is
side?
our presentation
What is the
folder.
presentation?
We made a folder with like our slides and like the things we handed out. Yeah, so this is just our stuff. It's not the open side resources.
And if there's anyone, I know some people were asking about like the website and how to navigate it. If you would like a little bit of help understanding how to navigate, it has really everything you could want on the website in terms of the unit progression and also what skills and content are kind of moved from one grade level to the next. So if anybody wants to sit around and needs help with the website, I can help them with that.
Okay, got it? All right,
Okay.
we're good. We'll be around for a couple minutes if anybody wants anything.
Thank you. Good luck. I'm gonna pop it open to some
Yeah,
people.
thank you. Thanks, Dad.